A trail of blood. There have been a couple of articles already speculating on the vampire legends and myths. They are vampires, but not as you know it, and more like us than we would like. As well, in the old underground, for a glance at what appears to be evidence of rituals, altars, and so many bones, it begs the question of what exactly was occurring for that to be normal. And sometimes I wonder if time's passed based on what appears to be left behind, that there is always something extra creepy and dark that runs underneath. Literally. In tunnels and caves, deep underground and hidden from view, and from sunlight. Because behind the scripts, storylines and myths, I can't help thinking that, as with much, there is a thread of truth running through it, being distorted and watered down by fantastical elements and sensationalism. Or not. Maybe they are just throwing it out there, in all its ugly reality, but we choose not to believe it, finding it easier to deny its existence, because that would mean you have to face it, and ideally, deal with it. Maybe as others have had to before, who also get a mention in fictional settings, Van Helsing being the most famous in that category, leaving a trail of blood rather than breadcrumbs to reveal that dark thread that would prefer to stay in the shadows or just behind the scenes. Blood banks. They could just be for what they say they are, to help people who are in need after an accident or medical incident, or that could be a cover for the actual purpose, like a convenience store in every city for those who need it to survive, without bringing too much attention to yourself by just taking it off the street, as it were. And there is much speculation about us being a food source, that we are farmed and kept as we are like animals for purpose. We can't deny that there is a devious and dark thread that runs through what we know as humans. But is there something else alongside that, taking advantage of that dark cover to hide in plain sight, and even darker reality? Also, they are usually stocked with blood from people who have donated, as far as I know. Another twist on the vampire needing to be invited. You need to be a volunteer, it seems. Covered as well in That's the Ticket. Blood types. I sometimes wonder if it is the blood type that reveals more than we know, that it can give away the ones who would be considered prime stock, and then graded thereafter. It might also reveal a crossover where there are hybrids, like the humans and angels idea, which then created the Nephilim, they say. What if we have other half-breeds and hybrids among us that we don't recognise? Not like us might be relevant there. Death Becomes Her, 1992. A film that portrayed a potion, a price, and immortality, made into a colourful and entertaining movie, showing how people will trade much for fame and beauty, but without always thinking through the consequences, and often being taken by ego, lust, and jealousy along the way, making you wonder if some people who appeared to go before their time were made to step back from view, as in the film, or they weren't playing the game they had signed up for. Who knows? Adrenochrome. Something that appears very much linked to the overall idea of a vampire, that certain blood is more vibrant than others, and gives them that fountain of youth that pops up here and there in myth and folklore too. And if that were so, and an ancient race of blood-drinking humans did coexist with us, wouldn't it be prudent for them to look after their food source, as well as herd them towards what is needed? Encourage a steady supply of blood deposits for those banks, a steady supply of offspring to feed on, and be the next generation of blood donors and breeders. And it may seem weird that they would reveal what they are, and their methods along the way, but to me it does two things. People will naturally decide mostly that it is really too far-fetched to be real, imagining the classic vampire, sleeping in a coffin, living in a castle, scared of sunlight and garlic, and crosses and hallowed ground being their nemesis. Funny, isn't it, that in churchyards they also use coffins to bury people, and have crypts underneath them. Maybe they are happier being within what we have called hallowed ground after all. But if a person did happen to meet one, or find themselves in the grips of that setup, then it would also be easier to adjust to it being real perhaps, as you have a reference point and something behind it. Or maybe they have just tried to hide and stay out of the way, and it is others who, like Van Helsing, take on the role of exposing it and making sure people don't forget. Our memories can be short, and if we are on a shorter clock than they are, I can see why we might need to be reminded.